यशोदानन्दन व्रजजन रञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजन रञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारि यमुनातीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज विहारी राधा माधव कुञ्ज विहारी जय गिरिवरदारी जय विजन वल्लभा हरि यशोदानन्दन व्रज जन रञ्जन जन रञ्जन वनचारी माधव हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परम सदा शिष्य स्वामी प्रशेष भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन संस्थापक आचार्य शिल प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परम सदा शिष्य इस गोयंग शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद गौर किशोर दास महाराज की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद शिल भक्त श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री गोपाल भट्टदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य पवन नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री राधा कृष्ण को अपने श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय श्री राधा प्रतिनाथ भगवान की जय श्री मायापुर धाम की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय गंगा मई की जय भक्ति की जय तुलसी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथ श्रीमद भागवतम की जय इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय समावित भक्त वृंद की जय और प्रेमानंदे हरि All glories to the Ashen. All glories to the Ashen. All glories to the Ashen. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Ashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to the Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Canto 4, chapter 19, text 23. Hani Rupani Jagre Indro Hayajhirshaya Tani Papasya Kandani Lingam Kandam Ihochyate Yani Rupani Jagre Indro Hayajhirshaya Tani Kandani Lingam Kandam Ihochyate यानि रूपाणि जगृहे इन्द्रो हयजिहर्षया तानि पापस्य खण्डानि लिंगम खण्डम इहोच्यते. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whatever different forms Indra assumed as a mendicant because of his desire to seize the horse were symbols of atheistic philosophy. Purport Srila Prabhupada ki jai. According to Vedic civilization, sannyasa is one of the essential items in the program of the Varnashram institution. At the present moment, however, many so-called sannyasis or mendicants have no understanding of God consciousness. Such sannyasa was introduced by Indra because of his jealousy of Prithu Maharaj Prithu and what he introduced his second appearing in the age of Kali. Practically, none of the sannyasis in this age are bona fide. No one can introduce any new system into the Vedic way of life. If one does so out of malice, he is to be known as a Pashandi or atheist. In the Vaishnava Tantra, it is said, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatai Samatne Samatneva Viksheta Sapashandi Bhavetrupam. Although it is forbidden, there are many Pashandis who coin terms like Narayan and Swami Narayana, although not even such people as Brahma Shiva can be equal to Narayan. Shri Chaitanya Vishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Prabhupadam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tam Sujipam Satvaitam Savadotam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopshevka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते ब्रह्मामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद राधा शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे देशी गुरुदेव बांधवान श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर हरे कृष्ण. So we see in this verse, actually, take back link to the process. Prithu Maharaj was performing the 100th sacrifice, horse Ashwamedha Yajna or horse sacrifice. And whenever such sacrifices are performed, one person who becomes always envious is King Indra. He always looks for those personalities who may become more powerful than him. So he thought Prithu Maharaj would become more powerful by him if he performed this 100th sacrifice. So he tried to steal the horse. It was fought again. The sacrifice was started. He tried to steal the horse. This time he pretended to be a mendicant and assumed many forms to steal that sacrificial horse that was conducted by Prithu Maharaj. So it is said that all these forms are symbols of atheistic philosophy. To understand something about sannyas, according to Vedic civilization, four varnas and four ashramas that are established by the Lord himself, as he stated to Krishna, to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Chatu Varnayam Mahashisham Guna Karna. So the Lord established four varnas and four ashramas. And the sannyasa ashrama is supposed to be the highest of all the. But then one should accept sannyasa only according to the paraspara system of the acharyas. And actually, sannyasi means one who has already attained love of Krishna, not otherwise. You find so many sannyasis who don't know, who are not even knowing who Krishna, but they may be wearing a separate dress. These are different forms because of them. So the Bible said there are so mendicants who have no. This system of false sannyasis was introduced by Indra, and that's what we see in Kali Yuga. Because most of the sannyasis are not bona fide. In fact, in Kali Yuga, sannyasi itself is prohibited. And the Prabhupada mentions that no one can introduce any new system in the Vedic way of life. If one does so, he is to be known as a Pashanti or an atheist. So, in sannyasa, there are 4 stages of sannyasis. Kutichaka, Bahudaka, Parivijakacharya, and Paramahamsa. Sannyasa order itself is topmost of all the 4 varnas and ashramas. And in sannyasa life also there are 4 classifications. We'll understand a little bit of these. The Kutichaka, or the first stage, is where one accepts an order of life, but he stays within the same village where his house was there, and he accepts basic necessities like food, which is supplied from the house. And then as he progresses, he accepts the next stage, which is called Bahudaka, where he does not accept anything from the home. Instead, he collects the necessities like food from many houses. This is what is called Madhukari. So this is compared to a bumblebee where it collects a little bit of honey from many flowers. So similarly, sannyasi at this stage is, collects a little from many houses. This is what is called Bahudaka. When he further progresses, he travels all over the world to preach the glories of the Lord, and that is what is called Parivrajaka. And after this, when the sannyasi finishes his preaching work, he sits in one place, and that stage is called Paramahamsa stage. So once one is taken to the renounced order of life, one should all these places where he might see many materialistic persons with all of worldly possessions. But one should not get carried away by seeing these worldly possessions. Rather, one should be renounced and be detached from it. So these Parvijaka Acharyas are basically meant to disseminate transcendental knowledge to each and everyone wherever they travel. They cannot produce their own Vedic mantras. It's all based on Shastras. That's just for the benefit of the society. So real renunciation means completely depending on the mercy of the Lord. So the moment one takes the renounced order of life, he depends completely on the mercy of, like us. We may be very opulent from outside, but internally we are bankrupt for Krishna consciousness. But the real renunciant is one who is externally very poor because he renounces everything, and so he values. Yes. But internally, he is very rich because he is rich in Krishna consciousness. That is the difference between a sannyasi and a outsider. And it is said in the Shastras that a sannyasi should normally not live in one place for more than 3 days. So they stay in a place for 3 days. And then they have to continue the travel, reaching the glories of the Lord. The examples are given that the Goswamis stayed under particularly never stayed under a particular tree for more than 1 day. So otherwise they said that they would develop attachment to a particular place. What happens is that when someone finds comfortable, we call it a comfort zone. So when someone finds a suitable place, he develops a comfort zone. But the Goswamis never stayed under a tree for more than 1 day because they thought that might lead attachment to a particular place. This is what the sannyasa really means. Then in the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description given by Narad Muni to Yudhishthira, where he describes on the lifestyle of a sannyasi. He says that a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections and merely keeping the body inhabitable, he should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. That means even the Esther years, sannyasis were allowed to stay in one village just only for one night, and they keep on traveling. So in this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, sannyasis should travel all over the world. And a person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. So if he wears anything at all, it should only be a loin cloth. And when there is no necessity, a sannyasi should not even accept a danda. That means the bare minimum they should have is only a loin cloth. But nowadays in Kali Yuga, the people are degraded. So traveling in loin cloth may not be the right perspective. So they wear a bare minimum cloth. And then they may not have a necessity of carrying even a danda. So it is said that the sannyasi should avoid carrying anything, but if at all required, a danda and a kamandulu. Sannyasi then, when he's satisfied in completes with this, he goes begging from door to door, and then not depending on any person and any place. He should always be a friendly well-wisher to all the living beings and be a peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayana. And this way, he keeps on moving from one place to the another. So this is a real role of a real sannyasi. I'll come to some more descriptions. The sannyasi is, of course, constitutionally the spiritual master of all the divisions. That means, if you look at all the four varnas and ashramas, sannyasi is supposed to be the spiritual master of all the other varnas and other ashrams also. The Paramahansa is the highest stage of perfection for a sannyasa life. And this was respected by all others. One example in Shastra is Lord himself. And he instructed his sons to follow the path of perfection by tapasya, by which one can sanctify one's existence. The spiritual realization, which is all by tapasya, or undergoing voluntary path of penance, material pressure, is the best austerities. So those who have been trained for this, they can only those who are undisturbed by the senses can take this form of, take the stage of sannyasa. From this mission. At the last stage, he became completely aloof from this material body, which is very rare. The first canto of Bhagavatam, there is an example. It's that experience all the varieties of God's creation by traveling through all the forests, hills, towns, and villages, all alone. That means Parvijaka is one who is supposed to travel all alone through all the towns, villages, etc., by which he gains faith in God and his mind becomes strong. Also enlightened inhabitants of the places wherever he travels. He gives the message of God to everyone. His duty to take all this. In the jungles you might see tigers and lions and wild animals, but you should not have fear for them. And the most recent example given here is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who traveled the same way to all over the jungles, Jharkhand, which is Bihar, etc. And he enlightened even tigers and bears and snakes and made them embrace each other. This was the best example given for sannyasa. Of course, in the age of Kali, sannyasi is forbidden for ordinary men. exceptional cases, this is given to those who, for the purpose of preaching, because of course, preaching is very important in the mission, and ISKCON has given this as a selective on a select. So one who changes his dress to make up propaganda is a different from original ideas. One might take a dress for a false propaganda. He may not be the right sannyasi, but one should, however, take a vow to stop social intercourse completely and devote life to the service of the Lord. That means at a sannyasa stage, one should take a vow not to accept association with the opposite sex. A change of dress is just a formality, but the real this thing is promotion of God consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not accept the sannyasi for the formality state, but then uh, he showed by example. He traveled all over South India and traveled around preaching Krishna consciousness. One should, of course, not imitate personalities like Narada Muni or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, but then one should at the same time spread the glories of the Lord wherever they travel. And this what exactly the Goswamis of Vrindavan also did. But there is a mention of how irreligion is the back of the Lord. Not in this purport, there's one of the Bhagavatam. Religion emanates from the Lord. That's it. That the Lord lotus feet is religion. That means the lotus feet of the Lord. And anything that is considered opposite to that is called irreligion. So that irreligion emanates from the back of the Lord. So, Lord, the back is an important place for anyone. It emanates from the front of the Lord and irreligion from the back of the Lord. Of course, the religious principles are established by the Lord Himself. There's a quote in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam which says that Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. That means religious principles are emanating from the Lord Himself, and nobody can violate these. There is one important point that's mentioned in the purport, which is called Tirtha Narayan or Narayan. We'll understand a little bit of this. The Lord, whether he is rich or he is poor. But the general misconception among the common man is that the body of a poor man is poor by means. So they call him as Daritara Narayana. In which case, Srila Prabhupada contradicts the statement by saying that if the Lord can become Daritara Narayana by being situated in the body of a poor man, then the Lord should also be called as Dhani Narayana when he is situated in everyone's heart. It does not become different by being situated in different forms of body. Situated in the body of a dog, he is situated in the body of a hawk. So therefore, there is a quote in Bhagavad Gita also which says Vidya Vinay Sampane Brahmanika Vihasine. Darshina. A so learned Pandita is one who sees the same law situated in the heart of an animal. So there is nothing called Daridra Narayana. But those who don't know the understand, they have the concept, they make different assumptions. Sometimes having a bodily concept of life, some sannyasis may make various progresses of the body, but then the sannyasi is one who is supposed to be away from the bodily concept of life. Then there's a quote in the ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, it has become fashionable to give preference to the so-called Daridra Narayana or poor Narayana. Rantideva had no reason to give preference to any one person. The idea that because Narayana is present in the heart of one who is Daridra or poor, the poor man should be called Daridra Narayana is a wrong conception. That means just because the Lord is situated in the heart of a poor person, it should not be assumed that he's called as a representative Tirtha. Many who coined these terms like Tirtha or Swaminarayan, and they are also called Pashandis. These are called basically Pashandi means atheists. But as per Shastras, Narayana cannot be equal, or even the great demigods like Brahma, Lord Shiva, cannot become equal to Narayana. There's a mention about how himself forms to steal the horse. And that was the beginning of the false religion also. We see that there are many who propagate that what they follow is the actual religion. They may be following irreligion. For this, there are reports in Srimad Bhagavatam. The first canto itself, as I mentioned, that living entities are eternally under the subjugation of the Almighty Lord. That means religion means these are the laws emanated by the Lord Himself, and one is bound to obey the laws of the Lord. That is what is called religion. So the Lord makes all the laws around this, and these laws are called dharma or religion. And no one can create a religious formula of their own. And one of my religion means to abide by the orders of the Lords, which is given in Bhagavad Gita also. Then there's a quote in the Indra received this horse from King Tirtha, several orders of sannyasa. That means he took many orders of forms of sannyasa. And some sannyasis go naked, and sometimes they wear red garments and pass under the name of Kapalika. These are just different representations of simple activities. That means the sannyasis also have a proper dress code, that is, they wear saffron. And anyone who wears other type of garments like reddish, etc., they are called representations of sinful activities. And these so-called sannyasis are very much appreciated only by sinful people who are godless atheists and very expert in putting forward unwanted arguments and reasons to support their claim. That means all sannyasis are supported by only people, not by one who is genuinely interested in practice. Then there's a mention that how people in Kali Yuga are short-lived, they're devoid of spiritual knowledge, etc. And they are always disturbed, mentally disturbed. Therefore, it prohibits the adoption of sannyasa in the age of Kali because religion made except the sannyasa order for cheating purposes. And the only means or the only religion is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all other systems of sannyasi or religion are not qualified. Then there's a quote in the fourth canto itself in the 19th chapter where says, for his own sense gratification, Indra thought to defeat Maharaja Prithu in the performance of the 100th Savar sacrifice. Consequently, he stole the horse and hid himself amid so many irreligious personalities, taking on the false pride of a sannyasi. So Indra stole the horse and then he was hiding himself under so many irreligious personalities. Under the false pride or potential sannyasi, people get attracted, the common man gets attracted to these, which is very, very dangerous. And Lord Brahma thought that Mr. He'll introduce such religious systems. He thought it would be better to stop the sacrifice. And a similar stance was taken by Lord Buddha when people were overly indulged in animal sacrifices. Buddha had to introduce the sacrifice of animals which were going on before his incarnation. Then there is a quote in Srimad Bhagavatam, sixth canto, which says, if one follows any other religious system, he is subject to punishment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in many ways. That is, actually, in the fifth and sixth canto of different types of punishments that are given to living entities by Yamaraj. They are sent to the hellish planets and different types of punishments are given. come to this at a later stage. So, if one follows any other type of a religion, they are punished by the personality of Godhead. So those who cheat others also are punished, and those who follow them also are punished. And therefore, if anyone follows a concocted system of religion, then it is basically due to his enviousness. And consequently, this system of religion is so useless. Then there's a mention of partial days. This we understand what is partial days. It is said that all the demigods are also personalities of the Supreme Lord, but they are also separated part and parcels. Just like living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the demigods are also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But they are on a higher platform than the conditioned living entities like us. But they do not belong to the category of Vishnu Tattvas. The Vishnu Tattvas are all living personalities, very powerful as the original personality of Godhead himself. And they exhibit different they have come exhibit. The separate parcels can never be equal to the Vishnu Tattva, whether it is me or a demigod. Therefore, it is said that one should not classify the Vishnu Tattvas or the separated portions on the same category. If anyone describes so, he is known by a name of Shiva. And in the age of Kali, of course, we see that many people commit such offenses. And somebody might say, Shiva is supreme personality of Godhead. Someone might say that Ganesha is the personality of Godhead. But none of them can be equal to the supreme personality of Godhead. But if anyone gives this classification, it becomes a Pashanti. There is a quote in third chapter itself which says that anyone who places the Lord and the demigods on the same level is called a Pashanti or atheist in English. In the fifth canto, there is a mention of what is really yajna. All the sacrifices mentioned in Vedic literatures, performance of Sankirtana yajna is the best. And even the performance of 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices cannot compare to one Sankirtana yajna. So according to Order Sri Charitamrita, if one compares Sankirtana yajna to other yajnas, he is a Pashandi or an infidel, and he is liable to be punished by him. So one cannot compare Sankirtana yajna to an Ashwamedha yajna. So even 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices cannot compare to one Sankirtana yajna. But then there are so many Mayavadis who think that performance of Sankirtana yajna is a pious activity similar to the performance of Ashwamedha yajna and other pious activities. But this is a Namaprad. Chanting the holy name of Narayana, chanting the name of other names can never be equal, despite Dr. Mayavadi. In the fifth canto, there is a we see in this purport there are many false religious that started taking very duplicity or pretentious religion that started after. So in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sukadeva Goswami speaks to Maharaj, he says, a king of Konka, Venka, and Kutaka, whose name was Arhat, that means in the name of Arhat, he heard that Rishabdeva, and imitating Rishabdeva's principles, introduced a new system of religion. So rather than the incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he was known for his austerities that he did. In fact, it is mentioned in the temple itself that he was so devoted to the Lord that he, at the time of leaving his body, left his body on his own stool and urine, which were all giving a pleasant smell. They were not smelling badly like any other man's, common man's stool and urine. This is what was after Rishabdeva left, it's mentioned that when he started imitating Rishabdeva's principles, and they introduced a new system of religion. So taking advantage of Kali Yuga, the age of sinful activity, was a of these places which I mentioned. Third gave a very concocted system opposed to the Vedas, and that was the beginning of the Jain Dharma. And many other so-called religions followed this atheist system. That means this King Arahat is those that are practiced by Rishabdeva, and then that was the beginning of the Jain Dharma. And thereafter many so-called religions started following this atheistic system. So Jainism was the first one that was opposed to Dharma. And thereafter, there were so many bifurcations and so many religious forms that started. And they're all basically atheistic in nature. Analogies given who claimed himself to be Narayana, and uh, he called himself as Prabhupada, who called him as 400 Narayana. Then the Lord fought with him and killed him also. So, similarly, at the time of Shaktiva, this king Arhat, he took this false religious system and took advantage of the situation of the king of the age of Kali. Also, I mentioned that because people are less intelligent, people cheating, they become a victim of this false religion. And that people who are lost among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord will give up the original Varnashrama Dharma and its rules and regulations. That means bewildered by the Maya potency of the Lord, they will give up the original Varnashrama system and its rules and regulations. Then there's mentioned that they will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshipping the Lord. That is Varnashrama system. One is supposed to take bath 3 times and worship the Lord. Then the sloka has mentioned that abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, they will accept nonsensical principles. Not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly, they will always remain clean and they will pluck out their hair. So there are some religious that will pluck out the hair from their head, which is not, does not mention any of the established principles. Then following the concocted religion, they will perish. So you see that people follow nonsensical in the and this concocted religion. That is why there are a lot of concocted religions that flourish. And there is mentioned that during this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems. Secondly, these people will naturally derive Vedic authority. The followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees. So that means these types of irreligious system followers, they have their own which is against the Vedic injunctions established by the Supreme Lord himself. And one form that is mentioned are the hippies. They said that the hippies in the Western countries are uh, a perfect example of the religious system, because they live a responsible, unregulated way. They do not bathe and they do not. They always fall with the Vedic knowledge, and they concoct their new styles of function and so forth. It is said that the hippie groups which follow these principles laid down by King Arhat. The followers of King Arhat went under the name of Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are less offshoots of the Mayavada philosophy because they think themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are all false religious systems that started when Indra started played this pastime. And then the next sloka has mentioned that low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, introduce a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles. Following their own mental concoctions, they automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. That means so many forms of religion about in the particular age of Kali, and those who start these forms of religion and those who fall into principal religion, they all fall into the darkest reasons of existence. That means after they finish life, they all go to hellish planets, and they are all being all punished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, which I mentioned previously. Oppose the principle of religion that is established by the Lord, all followers of the religion. This be a sannyasi, and that is how the false sannyasis were in different forms. None of them the class for the day. If anyone has got any questions, any comments on the subject, they can ask me. Hare Krishna. Does anyone has any questions on doubts on this subject? Okay. If there are no questions or comments, I would like to take the class as close. Thank you all very much. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.